Eli Ward, a human janitor, moved quietly through the silent corridors of the Deep Space Medical Station. The station orbited a planet long forgotten by most of the galaxy. Most people had left years ago. The hallways were empty. Machines hissed in the distance, and the fluorescent lights flickered faintly overhead. Eli's mop squeaked across the metal floor as he pushed it along, careful not to disturb the hum of the lab equipment. He had been working the night shift for months, cleaning, sweeping, and making sure the station looked active, even though it had been abandoned by the scientists who had built it. Eli had seen strange things here before: broken robots, half-finished experiments, containers holding things that seemed alive. But he had learned to ignore them. That was his job: clean, watch, and stay out of trouble. Tonight something felt different. A soft, pulsing blue light came from a lab at the far end of the corridor. The door was marked "Restricted, do not enter." Normally, Eli would have walked past without a second thought. But curiosity gnawed at him. There was something alive in there, something calling to him. He crept closer, careful to keep his footsteps quiet. Inside the lab, machines hummed and tubes glowed. And there it was, a single alien hand floating in a clear containment pod. It was delicate and pale, with silver veins running under the skin. The fingers twitched slightly as if it were trying to reach out. Eli stepped back in surprise. He knew this was no ordinary experiment. The signs were clear. This had been a project long abandoned. The labels on the containers were faded, the machines dusty, but the hand pulsed with life. A small warning light blinked beside it. Eli's heart raced. Should he leave? Or should he stay and see? Without thinking, he reached for the control panel next to the pod. His fingers brushed a button. Instantly, the machines whirred to life. Lights blinked red and alarms started ringing. The hand glowed brighter. Eli froze, unsure if he should run or stay. Then slowly, he watched in disbelief as the cells inside the pod began to grow. From that single hand, a body started forming. Bones appeared first, then skin, then the faint outline of a face. Eli's breath caught in his throat. He had never seen anything like this. The hand had become a whole body, and it was moving. The pod hissed as fluid drained from the tank. The body flexed its new limbs. A soft, metallic voice whispered something Eli couldn't understand. It sounded like a name. The alien's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dim light. They focused on Eli. He stepped back, dropping his mop. The girl in the pod looked at him, her gaze full of fear and curiosity. Eli didn't know what to do. Should he call for help? The security team? No, he knew they would destroy her immediately. His mind raced. He wrapped a blanket around her fragile body as carefully as he could. She shivered, her glowing eyes blinking rapidly. "What are you?" Eli whispered. The girl tried to speak. A small broken sound came out. "Ra," she said, her voice weak and trembling. Eli realized she was trying to say her name. He nodded slowly. "Lura." "Okay, Lura." The sound of heavy boots echoed down the corridor. Security was coming. They were supposed to be the only ones allowed near these experiments. Eli's stomach tightened. He couldn't let them find her. Not like this. He grabbed the blanket and lifted Lura carefully. She clung to him, weak but alive, and her fingers brushed his arm, sending a small shock of warmth through him. Eli's mind raced. How could one hand rebuild an entire body? How could she survive like this? He ducked behind a row of old lab equipment as the guards came closer. Their voices were harsh, demanding, and full of authority. The alarm lights made everything look red and chaotic. Lura whispered something Eli didn't understand, pointing at her chest. He realized she wanted to know if she was safe. Eli took a deep breath. "I won't let anyone hurt you," he said firmly. He didn't know why he promised this. Maybe it was because he had seen enough cruelty in the galaxy. Maybe it was because he believed life, any life, was precious. The guards moved past, unaware of the hidden pod behind the machines. Eli held Lura tight, feeling her tiny body tremble. He whispered, "Come on. We need to get out of here." In that moment, Eli knew something extraordinary had happened. A single hand, once all that remained of a lost alien race, had rebuilt a life. And the first face she saw, her first connection to the world, was not a scientist, not a soldier, but a simple human janitor. Something in Eli's chest stirred. He didn't know what the future held. He didn't know if they would survive the night. But he knew one thing: Lura was alive, and he would do everything he could to keep her that way. Eli moved quickly through the dark corridors, carrying the weak alien girl wrapped in his old cleaning blanket. Her skin still shimmered faintly under the dim lights, and every few seconds she gasped softly as if breathing was something new to her. He could hear the security boots thundering in the distance. The alarms hadn't stopped since the regeneration pod activated. He ducked into a maintenance room and shut the door. The faint hum of the air recycler filled the silence. Laura opened her eyes, blinking in confusion. She looked at Eli with a mixture of fear and wonder, her glowing pupils adjusting to the shadowed light. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice soft but unsteady. "You're on Med Station 47, Eli said, trying to speak calmly. "You were rebuilt somehow, from a hand." She looked down at herself, touching her arms, her legs, her chest. Her expression changed from confusion to disbelief. "This body, not mine?" Eli didn't know what to say. "I don't know, but you're alive, that's what matters." Her eyes filled with tears that glowed faintly blue. She shivered again, so Eli handed her his jacket. "Here, it's not much, but it'll help." She stared at the jacket, then at him, almost studying his kindness like it was something rare. "You help me," she said slowly, as if testing the words. "Why?" Eli smiled weakly. "Because you needed it. That's what humans do, sometimes." Her small hand reached out, trembling, and touched his cheek. The touch was warm, almost electric, as if her body carried energy beyond normal life. "Eli," she whispered, remembering his name from when he introduced himself. Eli Good. He couldn't help but chuckle softly, even in the danger. "Let's hope so." A sudden thud on the metal door made them both jump. Voices outside barked orders. "Search the maintenance wing." Someone triggered the regeneration protocol. Eli looked around frantically. The only way out was the waste chute at the back, leading to the lower decks. It was dirty, cramped, and smelled terrible, but it was better than getting caught. He pulled open the hatch. "Come on, we have to go." Laura hesitated. "Dark, I know," Eli said gently, "but I'll be right behind you." She nodded, trusting him despite knowing him for less than an hour. She crawled into the chute, her glowing eyes lighting the path ahead. Eli followed, pulling the hatch shut behind them. The tunnel was narrow, forcing them to crawl on their hands and knees. As they moved, Laura's faint voice echoed, "I remember." "Light pain. Cold hands," Eli frowned. "Cold hands?" "Yes," she whispered. "They took, then nothing." He realized she was remembering something, maybe the day she was destroyed. The thought made his stomach twist. Someone had taken her apart, and now, against all odds, she was whole again. They dropped down into a lower level of the station. The lights here were broken. Water dripped from pipes, and the air smelled of rust and oil. It was the forgotten part of the station, Eli's territory. "Safe now?" she asked, glancing around. "For now," he said. "We'll hide here until I figure something out." He guided her into an old storage bay. Broken machines lay scattered everywhere, covered in dust and spider-like cables. Laura sat quietly, wrapping the blanket tighter around herself. She looked small and lost, like a child trying to understand the world for the first time. Eli sat across from her. "You said your name is Laura, right?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, Laura, that is..." Eli thought for a moment. "Laura, the people who made this station, they might come after you. You were part of an old project, something secret." She tilted her head. "Why make me?" he sighed. "I wish I knew." She looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers as faint energy moved under her skin. Maybe they wanted to play God. Eli didn't answer. He just watched her, wondering what kind of power lay within her body. She wasn't just alive. She was built from technology no human had ever seen. After a few minutes, Laura looked up again. "You saved me," she said. "Others would not." Eli smiled softly. "I just did what felt right." Her expression turned serious. "Then I will stay with you. You are my beginning." Those words struck him deeply. She didn't understand everything yet, but somehow she knew what mattered. Far above them in the station's command deck, Dr. Vorn watched the camera feeds. His metallic fingers drummed against the table as he zoomed in on a heat signature, moving through the lower decks. Two shapes, one human, one unknown. His cold voice broke the silence. "So, the experiment worked." He turned to his assistant. "Activate a lockdown." "I want them alive." Back in the storage bay, Laura suddenly clutched her head. "They are watching." Eli looked up sharply. "How do you know?" Her glowing eyes dimmed for a moment. Because I can feel them. Eli stood, realizing their escape was far from over. Then we move. Now. And with that, the janitor and the alien girl who should not exist disappeared deeper into the maze of steel tunnels, running from a truth neither of them fully understood. Eli moved fast, leading Lura through the lower decks. The sound of boots echoed from above. The station was alive now. Alarms, flashing red lights, and the distant shout of guards filled the air. Eli had worked here for years, but tonight every hallway felt strange and dangerous. "Stay close," he whispered. Lura followed quietly. Her bare feet made no sound on the cold floor. She still looked weak, but her glowing eyes gave them enough light to see through the dark tunnels. The deeper they went, the louder the hum of machines grew. Pipes dripped. The air smelled like oil and metal. Eli stopped at a fork in the tunnels. "Left goes to the waste chute," he muttered. "Right goes to the power lines." "We'll take the right." Lura tilted her head. "Why?" "Because no one goes near the power lines," Eli said. "Too dangerous." She gave a small nod and followed. As they crawled deeper, Eli could feel the heat rising. Sparks flickered from the walls. Lura stopped suddenly. Her hand touched one of the metal pipes, and the lights above them flickered. Eli stared. "You did that?" She looked confused. "The metal listens to me," he frowned. "You mean you can control it?" She didn't answer, but her fingers glowed again, and a nearby maintenance door unlocked by itself with a soft click. Eli's eyes widened. "Okay, that's new," he whispered. They slipped through the door into an old cargo passage. It was filled with crates, dust, and broken machines. Lura looked around with wide eyes. "What is this place?" "Storage bay," Eli said. "Old equipment never used." He sat down, trying to catch his breath. His hands shook from the rush of adrenaline. Lura sat beside him, curious. "Why you help me, Eli?" He looked at her. "Because you didn't ask to be born here. You didn't ask for any of this." She seemed to think about that. "I feel wrong," she whispered. "Like I am not whole. My body remembers pain, my mind empty." Eli sighed softly. "You're doing fine, Lura. You're learning fast." She smiled faintly. "You are kind." "Humans are kind?" He gave a sad laugh. "Some are. Not all." Before he could say more, a robotic voice echoed through the tunnel. "Unauthorized life form detected. Sector 9 lockdown initiated." Eli's face went pale. "They've got drones." A loud buzzing sound followed. Laura's eyes widened as a security drone floated into view from the far end of the corridor, its red lens scanning everything. Eli whispered, "Stay low." The drone beeped, aiming its light toward them. Lura tensed, her hand glowing again. "Don't move," Eli hissed, but the drone fired a warning shot, blasting a hole in the metal beside them. Instinct took over. Lura raised her hand and a pulse of blue energy burst from her palm. The drone froze mid-air, its lights flickering before dropping to the floor with a heavy thud. Eli stared at her, speechless. "You just stopped it." Lura's breathing was shaky. "I don't know how. It just happened." Eli looked at the broken drone. "Well, don't stop doing that." But the sound of more buzzing filled the air. 3 more drones. Eli grabbed Lura's hand. "Run!" They sprinted through the tunnels. Sparks flew as laser shots hit the walls around them. Eli ducked, pulling her behind old barrels. "We can't outrun them," he muttered. Lura closed her eyes, breathing hard. Her skin glowed brighter this time, light spreading across the floor like waves. Suddenly, every drone's red light dimmed. Their engines sputtered, then died. The tunnels fell silent. Eli looked around in shock. "You shut them down." She nodded weakly. "But it hurts. Feels like burning." He steadied her shoulders. "Then we rest." They hid inside an old power maintenance room. The door locked automatically behind them. Lura leaned against the wall, eyes heavy. "Eli, they will not stop." "I know," he said, "but we'll stay ahead of them. You just need time to get strong." She looked up at him. "You are not afraid of me?" Eli shook his head. "I've seen monsters in this galaxy. You're not one of them." Something soft appeared in her eyes, a spark of warmth that hadn't been there before. She nodded slowly. "Then I trust you." Above them, unseen cameras zoomed in on their location. In the command center, Dr. Vorn watched the feed with cold satisfaction. "Remarkable," he said. "She's learning control faster than predicted. Prepare a capture team." Back in the tunnels, Eli didn't know they were already being hunted again. He only knew that he had to protect her. He looked at the glowing girl beside him and whispered, "We'll find a way out. Laura, I promise." The camera light blinked in the shadows, recording every word. The hum of the old maintenance room filled the silence. The walls vibrated softly with the power lines running behind them. Laura sat on the cold floor, her head against the metal wall, eyes closed. Her breathing was slow and uneven. Eli sat nearby, trying to fix a small radio unit he had found among the tools. They had been hiding for hours. Outside, the sound of security drones echoed faintly through the tunnels. Every time a red light flashed in the distance, Eli froze. He knew they were still being hunted. Laura suddenly whispered, "I see things." In my head, Eli looked up from the radio. "What kind of things?" She frowned, her silver veins pulsing faintly. Flashes, faces screaming, a bright light. Then cold hands touching me. Then nothing. Eli's chest tightened. "You're remembering." Laura nodded weakly. "It hurts." Eli moved closer. "Try to rest. Don't force it," but her body trembled. She grabbed his arm suddenly, her nails digging in. Her eyes glowed brighter and her voice became shaky. "They'd destroyed us. My people, my home, fire. So much fire." Eli didn't know what to do. He held her shoulders, trying to calm her. "Hey, you're safe now, breathe," she gasped, shaking her head. Humans came. They promised peace. Then bombs fell. My father said, "Trust them," but they lied. Her voice broke and she pressed her hands over her ears as if trying to block out screams only she could hear. Eli's throat went dry. The truth hit him hard. Was humanity part of her people's extinction? The lights in the room flickered wildly, reacting to her emotional surge. Sparks flew from the power cables above. Eli pulled her close to keep her from collapsing. When her glow finally dimmed, she whispered in exhaustion, "Why did your kind kill mine?" Eli had no answer. "Not all humans are the same," he said softly. "I don't know what happened back then, but I'm not like them." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with sadness instead of anger. "You saved me, when others would have watched me die. That is different." Eli gave a small smile. "Guess I'm a bad example of my species, then." That made her smile faintly through the pain. For a brief moment, the room felt lighter. Eli turned his focus back to the radio, trying to find a channel. Static filled the air. Then a cold voice broke through. "All sectors, target confirmed. Alien subject located in lower decks. Human accomplice identified, janitor Eli Ward. Capture alive." Eli's heart stopped. They knew his name. He switched off the radio immediately. "They're close," he whispered. "We have to move." Laura tried to stand, but her legs trembled. Eli helped her up. "You can lean on me," she nodded, clutching his arm. "They want me. For something." Eli glanced at her glowing veins. "Yeah, and I bet it's not for kindness." They moved through another narrow tunnel. Pipes hissed with steam and shadows stretched long in the dim light. Laura's steps were unsteady, but her will was strong. When they entered an old cargo bay, the air changed. It was colder, heavier. The bay was filled with giant containers covered in frost. On one of them, faint writing glowed. "Project Rebirth, Specimen 01. Laura froze. I know this place." She walked toward one of the containers, touching the frozen glass. Suddenly, a projection flickered to life on the wall. A group of scientists appeared, wearing old human uniforms. They were talking fast. "We've done it," one said. "Her DNA survived the cleansing. We can rebuild them. One hand was enough." Another voice replied, "Good. The council wants a hybrid model. We'll mix human genes with theirs. Stronger, smarter, loyal." Laura's eyes widened in horror. "They used me." Eli stared at the recordings, his stomach twisting. "You weren't just an experiment. You were their test." The hologram ended with a logo. Terran Bio Command. Eli took a shaky breath. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a weapon program. Laura backed away from the glass. "They killed us. And then tried to make us part of them." Her glow brightened again, but this time not from pain, from fury. The machines around her began to hum and shake. "I will not be their tool," she said, her voice steady now. Eli stepped forward carefully. "Hey, we'll stop them. But we can't do it if we're dead." She looked at him for a long moment, then slowly calmed herself. "You believe that?" He nodded. "Yeah, I've cleaned enough messes in this station. It's time to clean the biggest one." That made her laugh softly. a fragile sound in the cold air. But the moment didn't last. A loud clang echoed through the bay doors. Red lights flashed. Dr. Vorn's voice filled the speakers. "End of the line, janitor. Step away from the specimen." Eli's grip on Laura's hand tightened. "Guess they found us." She took a deep breath, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Then let them come." Eli smiled grimly. "That's the spirit." The doors opened with a hiss and armed soldiers poured in, unaware that the girl they thought was a weak experiment was about to show them what she truly was. The cargo bay exploded with light as soldiers stormed in, their boots pounding against the metal floor. Alarms blared above them, and red beams from their scanners swept across the room. Eli and Laura stood back to back, surrounded. "Don't move," one soldier shouted, raising his weapon. "The alien stays alive. The human is expendable." Eli's stomach tightened, but he didn't back away. "You'll have to go through me first," he said, his voice shaking but steady. The soldier laughed. "You're a janitor, not a hero." Laura's eyes flashed bright blue. The air around her vibrated with strange energy. "He is not expendable," she said softly. The words carried power, so much that even the soldiers hesitated. Dr. Vorn's voice echoed through the intercom, cold and calm. "Laura, stop resisting. You are property of Biocommand. You were designed to obey." Laura turned toward the speakers, her expression dark. "I was not designed. I was reborn." The soldiers raised their weapons. Energy bolts fired in every direction. Eli pulled Laura behind a steel container as shots sparked across the floor. "We have to move," he shouted. Laura nodded. Her glowing hands touched the ground, sending a pulse of blue light through the floor. The lights flickered, and several weapons jammed instantly. Sparks burst from the soldiers' rifles. "Systems malfunction," one of them yelled. Eli didn't wait. He grabbed her hand and sprinted toward the far exit. "Come on!" They dashed through the narrow hallway as gunfire echoed behind them. The ground trembled from explosions. Eli's breath came in heavy gasps. He had never run this fast in his life. They turned a corner and found themselves at the power sector, a maze of cables, glowing generators, and control consoles. Laura stumbled, clutching her chest. Her glow was dimming. "Laura, you okay?" Eli asked, catching her before she fell. She nodded weakly. "Too much. Energy," she whispered. "Drains me." He set her against a wall. "Then rest. I'll keep them busy." Before she could stop him, Eli grabbed a wrench from a toolbox and ran toward the nearest power conduit. He smashed the emergency release, and a shower of sparks rained down. Thick steam filled the hallway, hiding them in white fog. Laura watched him through the haze, her heart, if she even had one, tight with fear. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for this, but he refused to run. Through the fog, shadows moved. The soldiers were closing in again. Laura forced herself to stand. "No more hiding," she whispered. Her voice echoed faintly as if the air itself listened. Her skin glowed brighter again, veins pulsing silver. She raised her hands, and the ground beneath the soldiers rippled. The power lines around them twisted like metal vines wrapping around their legs. What's happening?" one shouted as his weapon flew from his hands. The metal walls hummed like a living thing. Laura's voice grew deeper. "You built me from death, but I was never yours to control." Electric light burst from her palms, knocking the soldiers off their feet. The whole corridor filled with a blinding flash. When the light faded, the guards lay unconscious. Eli stared in shock. "You did that?" Laura looked at her hands, trembling. "I don't know how. It just happens when I feel angry." Eli finished. She nodded. "Alive." He gave her a small, proud smile. "Well, keep feeling that way. It's saving our lives." A sudden crackle came from a nearby console. Dr. Vorn's voice again, but now angrier. "You think you can run forever? That body of hers runs on borrowed power. When it runs out, she dies, and so will you, janitor." Laura's face hardened. "He lies." Eli glanced at her. "You sure?" Her glow flickered, but she stood tall. "Even if he's right, I'll choose how I end." The station trembled violently. "They're sealing off this sector," Eli shouted. "We need a ship." "There's a docking bay near the reactor core," Laura said suddenly, as if remembering something. "Small crafts used for engineers. We can take one." Eli nodded. "Lead the way." They ran together through the shaking corridors. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes. Drones flew overhead, scanning the area, but Laura's power pulsed again. shorting them out one by one. As they reached the docking bay, Eli stopped dead. A massive steel door blocked their path. It needed a key code. Lura stepped forward. No need. Her fingers touched the control panel and her veins glowed like lightning. The door creaked, then burst open with a loud hiss. Eli grinned. "Remind me never to make you mad." Lura tilted her head, her voice almost soft. "I would never hurt you." Before Eli could respond, they heard more boots behind them, more guards armed and ready. Without hesitation, Lura turned, spreading her hands. A wall of blue light erupted between them and the soldiers, blocking every shot. Eli helped her into the small shuttle. "Can you fly this thing?" She glanced at the controls. "My people built it once. My body remembers." Engines roared to life. The shuttle rose just as soldiers stormed into the bay. Lura pulled the throttle and the ship shot forward, breaking through the bay doors into open space. Eli looked through the window as the massive station shrank behind them. "We did it," he whispered. Lura's glowing eyes softened. "No, Eli. This is only the beginning." Far behind, Dr. Vorn watched the escape on his screen, his eyes cold. "Let them run," he murmured. "Soon the girl will come back to me, or she will burn out trying." The stars stretched endlessly outside the shuttle window. For the first time, Lura was free of the cold metal station that had birthed her. The silence of space surrounded them, quiet, endless, and peaceful. Eli leaned back in the pilot's seat, his hands shaking slightly. He had never flown a ship before, but somehow Lura guided him with calm instructions. "Easy," she said softly. "The thrusters respond to touch, not force." Eli smiled nervously. "Yeah, well, touch isn't exactly my best skill. I'm used to mops, not spaceships." That made her laugh faintly, the first real laugh since she was reborn, but her glow had dimmed. Her movements were slower now. Each breath seemed to cost her effort. "Are you okay?" Eli asked. She nodded weakly. "My energy fades, the body. Unstable." "Then we'll find somewhere to land," Eli said quickly. "Someplace safe. Somewhere they can't track us." He scanned the star map until a small asteroid field appeared ahead. "There," he pointed. "Looks empty. We can hide there." Lura closed her eyes, reaching out with her strange sense. "I feel life," she murmured. "An old signal. Maybe from before," Eli frowned. "Before what?" She opened her glowing eyes. "Before I died." The words made his chest tighten, but he didn't question it. He steered the ship toward the largest asteroid. It had faint lights on its surface, signs of an abandoned base. The shuttle shook violently as they entered the thin atmosphere. "Hold on!" Eli shouted. The ship hit the ground hard, skidding across the rocky surface until it finally stopped. Smoke filled the cabin. Eli coughed and looked at Lura. "You alive?" She gave a tired smile. "Mostly." They stepped outside into the cold dust. The asteroid base loomed ahead, a series of cracked domes and silent towers half buried in rock. Faded signs in both human and alien languages marked the walls. Lura touched one of the metal doors. It opened automatically as if the base recognized her. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. The halls were covered in dust, yet the lights flickered on one by one as she walked. "This place," she whispered. "It remembers me." Eli followed carefully. "What is this place?" She looked around, her voice distant. "A sanctuary. My people built it, before the humans turned on us." They reached a large chamber filled with consoles and holographic panels. Lura's fingers glided over the controls, awakening systems that hadn't been touched for decades. A hologram appeared above the center of the room. A group of her people standing tall and graceful, their eyes glowing like hers. "If you are seeing this," the hologram said, "then the extinction has begun. The humans we saved have turned against us, but one of us may live. We stored our knowledge in a seed of flesh, a single hand left behind for rebirth." Lura stared, frozen. "That was me." The hologram continued. "Whoever awakens the last of us, protect her. She will carry both our light and their guilt." Then the projection faded, leaving only silence. Eli's voice was quiet. "So your people knew. They wanted you to live, even if it was just one of you." Lura turned to him, her eyes filled with tears that shimmered like liquid silver. "They gave everything. And humans destroyed them." Eli looked down. "Not all humans. Some of us still care. I'm proof of that." She studied his face for a long time. "Yes, you are." She walked to another console. More data appeared. Images of Dr. Vorn, years younger, working beside alien scientists. Notes flashed on the screen. Hybridization project. Rebuild the lost species using preserved DNA. Goal. Create a bridge between human and alien genetics. Eli frowned. Bridge? That doesn't sound like war. Laura read more. Her voice grew softer. It began as peace. But fear changed everything. The council wanted soldiers, not unity. She paused, touching her chest. They used my hand, my DNA, for their weapon. Eli's face hardened. Then Dr. Vorn isn't just a scientist. He's the man who destroyed your kind. Laura nodded slowly. And now he wants me back to finish what he started. Before Eli could answer, the floor trembled. Warning lights flashed red. The station's sensors had picked up something approaching. Eli ran to the window. A large ship was descending through the dust. It's him, he said grimly. Vorn found us. Laura's glow brightened again, not from fear, but determination. Then we face him. Eli turned to her, surprised. You sure? You can barely stand. She looked at him, her voice calm but fierce. He took everything from my people. I will not run again. Eli tightened his grip on the wrench at his belt, the same one he'd used back in the tunnels. Then we fight together. The old base shuddered as the enemy ship landed. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling. Laura stepped forward, her veins pulsing like lightning under her skin. She looked back at Eli. Thank you, she said softly, for giving me a reason to live again. Eli smiled faintly. Just don't make me mop up whatever happens next. The doors blew open and bright lights filled the chamber. Dr. Vorn's shadow appeared in the smoke, followed by armored soldiers. His cold voice echoed through the hall. End of the story, janitor. Return the experiment. Laura lifted her glowing hands. I am not your experiment, she said. I am your judgment. And the room filled with blue light once again. The room shook as Dr. Vorn and his soldiers entered the ruined chamber. Smoke and dust swirled through the blue light shining from Laura's skin. She stood in the center, calm but fierce, her glowing eyes locked on the man who had taken everything from her people. Dr. Vorn stepped forward, his metallic boots echoing sharply. His face was pale, half covered by a mechanical implant. So it worked, he said, studying her like a proud creator. You are more perfect than I ever imagined. I am not your creation, Laura said coldly. He smiled thinly. You wouldn't exist without me. I gave you life. Laura's voice grew stronger. You gave me pain. Eli stood beside her, gripping a metal pipe as if it were a sword. You should have left her alone, he said. Vorn's eyes flicked toward him, full of disgust. You, a janitor? Do you even understand what she is? She's not alive, she's a weapon, designed to rebuild what was lost through obedience. Eli took a step forward. She's more alive than you'll ever be. Vorn raised his hand. Enough, the soldiers opened fire. Energy bolts flew through the air. Laura lifted her hands, forming a glowing shield of light that shimmered like liquid glass. The shots hit it and scattered harmlessly. Sparks filled the room. Eli shouted, Laura, drop the shield. The generators, use them. She looked at the glowing reactors lining the walls, then nodded. She reached out and the energy from the reactors flowed into her body like lightning. The entire chamber blazed with blue-white light. Vorn's voice grew sharp. Careful, Laura. You'll burn yourself out. Her voice was steady. Then I will burn away your lies. The ground trembled. The soldiers fell back as a shockwave pushed through the base. Machines came alive, responding to Laura's will. Metal panels bent and formed into barriers, blocking the soldiers' path. Vorn shouted, You don't know what you're doing. You'll destroy everything. Laura stepped forward. Maybe that's what you fear most, something you can't control. Her hand rose and the implants on Vorn's face began to spark. He screamed as circuits overloaded. But before she could finish it, Eli grabbed her arm. Stop! She turned to him, eyes blazing. He killed my people. I know, Eli said softly, his voice calm but firm. But if you destroy everything, you'll be just like him. Don't let him define what you are. Her glow flickered. She looked into his eyes. The same eyes that were the first she ever saw when she was reborn. His humanity steadied her. Her rage faded into sorrow. Vorn dropped to his knees, coughing, his systems failing. You were supposed to obey. Laura knelt beside him, her voice quiet. You cannot command life. You can only respect it. Vorn's last breath left his body and his eyes went dark. Silence fell across the chamber. The machine slowed, the lights dimmed, and the storm of energy faded. Lura swayed, weak from the strain. Eli caught her before she could fall. "Easy, Lura," he whispered. Her voice trembled. "It's done," he nodded. "Yeah, it's over." But the base began to shake again. The overload she caused was spreading. The reactors were going critical. The ceiling cracked, dust raining down. Eli looked around. "We have to leave, now!" Lura tried to move, but stumbled. "My body..." Breaking apart, he lifted her into his arms. "I'm not leaving you." They ran through the collapsing tunnels. The walls glowed red, the hum of explosions behind them. Eli's lungs burned, but he kept going. Finally, they reached the outside, the cold, silent surface of the asteroid. The ship they came in sat tilted on the rocks, damaged but intact. Eli carried Lura inside and placed her in the co-pilot seat. "Stay with me," he said. She looked at him, her eyes dim but peaceful. "You were the first face I saw," she whispered. "The only one who treated me as alive." He took her hand gently. "And you were the first being who reminded me what it means to be human." Her lips curved into a small, tired smile. "Then maybe humanity still has hope." The ship lifted off as the base behind them exploded, sending a wave of blue light across the stars. Inside the cockpit, Eli looked at the fading glow of her skin. "Lura, hold on!" "We'll find a place where you can rest." She shook her head softly. "No, this body was never meant to last. But you will tell our story. Promise me," Eli's voice broke. "I promise." Her light flickered once, then faded completely. Eli sat there silent, holding her hand as the ship drifted through space. Then something miraculous happened. The ship's systems began to hum, powered by a faint energy. Her energy. The controls glowed softly. The engine stabilized. She was gone, but her essence lived on within the ship. Eli smiled through his tears. "You never stop helping, do you?" The stars stretched endlessly before him, and he whispered, "You're not just reborn. Lura, you're forever." The camera pulled back. The small ship sailing through the glowing debris of the destroyed base. A single human carrying the memory of a lost alien race, and a promise that one act of kindness could change the fate of galaxies.